Alright, hello everybody, it's James, otherwise known as Escape Punk Lefty, back here with another video with assistance from the Roland Martin channel, trying to cover something that really was bugging me. So I was listening through this video at work where you had this Nazi, because that's what he is, because the dad of Austin Metcalf, he called this guy and he sent I think a black Republican to talk to him to stop using his son's name and image to promote his white supremacist movement and to be the face of their white supremacist ideas of the moment, because there's been this narrative now that's being pushed that young black men are dangerous to white people, or black people in general are dangerous to white people, when we're going to get into some of this these statistical anomalies and half-truths that this guy tells, and he tries to force this guy, and if you was to ask me, to join his set and be down for his cause, because we treat that the political aspects of white supremacy as a threat to people's individual rights and freedom, which it is, but we forget that these people function and act as gang members. They put in work, they extort people. They're even known for selling drugs, guns, and ironically enough, despite being mad about everybody else doing it, they're known to do all sorts of things. It kind of reminds me of a couple weeks ago when I watched American History X, and I think that the writers of that movie did that on purpose, where they constantly wanted it to be noted that these people, despite them complaining about the things that black Americans do, such as gang violence, drug dealing, and what have you, they do the exact same things, but from the white perspective. So let's get into this video. I'm gonna have to rewind because I listened through it a little bit because I showed it to my wife, how insane and cringely stupid these arguments are. And let's just get into this, dude. It's gonna be fun.
Case of Austin Metcalf. He, of course, is the white high school teen who was stabbed to death by a young black teen, Carmelo Anthony. And so he's with a group called Protect White Americans. Now, again, what's interesting here is that you have Philip Anderson, who is black, who is standing with Lang, who is white, and the group is called Protect White Americans. Well, it was real interesting because all he doing was he was going there to
travel across the country to reduce violence against black communities.
Thank you. I stand with you, sir, on that.
But today,
I stand with you, sir, on that. The informal David Duke style, persecution podcast. That's what I personally call it. It's the David Duke selling of white supremacy. Because as this, ironically, even though he's a piece of shit himself, this black Republican right here, and he also has a little, let's just say, a slave behind him to say yes, master. But the point being is that white people unalive more white people per capita than black people. You don't really see too much interracial crime as these people like you to believe, where you're more likely to be unalive, robbed, extorted by people that live near you than people that live distant. So anytime you hear any white supremacist speaking about there's some sort of violence where other races of people of any sort, whether it's black, Arab, even Jewish people, whatever, are attacking white people, that's a lie, because a white person living in a trailer park in Alabama is not going to get unalive from somebody living in some black person living on Atlanta, Georgia or something. They're going to get unalive by a white person living in that same trailer park.
I'm here on behalf of the father, Jeff Metcalf.
Okay.
So what he's asking you is to not use his son's image or likeness in what you're doing. You can do what you do, but that's not what he wants his son tied to.
Okay.
Out of respect for that family.
Now, I would ask Jeff Metcalf if he would be
think that listen to this.
bold enough to act like a father of a deceased young man that was murdered, instead of being somebody suppressed, worried that he's going to spark the next race riots or some type of thing. He needs to
because that's what these people want. Because to be honest, after that situation happened, people wasn't even viewing it racial. At least black people were not. But as soon as, of course, it hit national news and you saw that it was a black kid who unalived a white kid, then they made it racial. And now we gotta again hear these tired arguments where if you just Google like FBI Table 43 or something, for instance, you will see that a white person is more likely to commit a crime against another white person and not a black person. Because you will have people like this, whether it's like white men or white women in the parking lots clutching their purses at like gas stations and shit like that, acting as if like, oh, this black kid who's headed to go to work at Chrysler is gonna snatch my purse because he's playing like hip hop and rap music. But the homeless white guy, ironically, is more likely to do it because you see him as less of a threat. The point being here is that these people, it's ridiculous because they have no expanded worldview about how things work. And the point of what I'm saying is not that black people never commit crimes against white people, because of course we live in a world with each other that does happen. But if you're some white person living in a suburban area or a trailer park in the middle of nowhere, there's not going to be no black or Hispanic people or even like, you know, Asians or whatever, Arab people coming to take anything that you have or unalive you. You know, it's more than likely it's going to be a white person doing that.
Stand for righteousness, not for the consequences of righteous actions always need to be taken seriously. He needs to be righteous before he is fearful. He is acting out of fear, not out of righteousness. He should have been on the...
And it's bad that he's trying to remarket bowing down to his will, you know, this thug's will, as a stand of righteousness, when the right thing to do is actually to cool racial tensions. This dude with the red tie on, whatever his name is, this clown, is trying to stoke and benefit and profit from racial tension rather than just saying we should take a step back. You know, it's not about race. It sucks that this kid was lost, and it sucks that this kid has to go through this constructed legal process, but we don't need to make more of a racial thing because we got a lot more going on in this country. And that's even ironically a pro-American conservative argument for different races of people to get along in the United States of America so we can remain united instead of being a thug stoking the flames of racism like this. There's nothing righteous about this. It's just evil and wrong.
Top of the bus today. He should have been standing shoulder to shoulder with me.
Are you a father?
No, I'm not.
I'm a father.
And you will always notice, I know I keep pausing it a lot because I'm trying to make this video short. These people constantly talk about how they're so traditional, but they are never fathers.
Amen.
I'm a father. As a father, there is this thing called grief. So let me tell you what's going on in his house. He's getting swatted. His only other son.
Who is swatting him? Which community?
No, we don't know the community, but it's happening. That's on the police to find. Secondly, he has a son who's a twin, who his son died in his arms. So that means he needs to navigate that. Then his son, who's his only son, is getting death threats. So as a father, his hands is full. So the last thing he wants to be tied to is having this complex of race. So yes, violence is bad. Young black men are getting killed every day by young black men across this country.
Yes, but I'm not a member of that community. I'm a member of my community.
He will only speak about young black men unaliving young black men when he's making a racist argument about what goes on in the neighborhoods of the United States and even other Western countries without the context of racial persecution that has led black people to the roads of criminality. And will again ignore when white people do the same thing, or ignore the fact that white people actually commit most of the crime in America. But okay.
My community is being victimized by the community.
Not to mention, if I listen to this shit, so I'm not a member of that community. Like, he's not a member of the white, or you know, he's a member. He's saying that he's a white man, right? And he's not a member of the black community. But when I bring up that I'm a member of the black community and I'm black, all of a sudden we're all Americans. So it's like these white supremacists say that they can be proud of their race, but when we say we are proud of our race and we want to solve the problems, you know, through whatever government extensions and even help working class white people along the way, then there's a problem.
Violent, black,
but here's the
degenerates.
But here's the problem.
Degenerates.
When you stand up,
there's no white degenerates, right? There's no white degenerates. White people don't unalive people. White people are not the 3075, if you know what I mean. White people never stolen anything. White people never, you know, do things to children when they're supposed to be their school teachers and stuff like that. White people are just these fucking flowers that run around the country trying to do nothing but good, and all the crime is suddenly somehow blamed on black people through these people's lenses.
In the name of God, there's one body, and if you're not a part of that body,
I could read statistics. So I'm also a pragmatic human.
See, he can't, because the word of God is convicting about treating your neighbors with respect and courtesy and forgiving people. So he's talking about statistics all of a sudden out of nowhere. But if, again, we want to talk statistics about white people getting unalived, there's white people unaliving white people at a higher rate that black people are doing it. White birth rates are dropping because of the will and predilections of white people. Black people have nothing to do with a lot of the problems in the white community. In fact, I dare say a lot of white quote-unquote oppression happens because of other mostly white men's policies. White men like Donald Trump, but yet y'all live in poverty, and y'all start to see the weight of capitalism bearing down on y'all. But instead of blaming the rich white men that are taking advantage of y'all and forcing y'all into these situations where you got to commit crime or you feel attacked, you blame it on black people who are living pretty much segregated from you till this day, and you cobble together nonsense to promote terrorism and thuggery. Like, this is ridiculous, man. Like,
Human being. So I understand when there's a problem, it needs to be addressed head on. If you tiptoe around a problem, that's how you get to the end result.
So your biggest concern,
hold up,
is the loss of white life by black people?
No, that's not my big.
and not to mention the fact that if we're going to talk about the loss of quote-unquote white life, what about all the school shootings and stuff like that? After the stuff with Carmelo Anthony happened, not only there was a stabbing where a white child poked a white bully at a high school somewhere, is also a situation where a white right-winger pew-pewed up his college in FSU in Florida, the Phoenix guy, right? So somehow when we're talking about black on black crime, which mostly refers to gang violence, right? Or domestic violence, right? But, white people are more likely to commit acts of terrorism against not only black individuals, Jews, and Arab people and Asians, but against their own race of people when they disagree with them. So if it's like, a group of liberals or something like that, or leftists that are protesting with black people, they're more likely to assault and look at what happened to Heather Heyer. Heather Heyer, for instance, at Charlottesville is a clear example of that. A white woman was unalived by a white neo-Nazi because she was counter-protesting and disagreeing with him. Not to mention the many, many other white people in that situation that were injured. So when you actually look at these people's politics and their behavior, it seems like to me they care more about authoritarianism and hatred than they do actually care about white people or care about America at all, because you can't do one without the other. You can't just care. If you call yourself a so-called pro-American person, whatever you motherfuckers like to call yourself, you can't just care about one race.
I have
The concern is a repeating pattern. It doesn't stop. It just keeps going on and on and on and on.
Look at this bootlicking motherfucker. What are you talking about? A pattern of what? And we're gonna look at the statistics. After this, I'm gonna pull up some study to disprove this. And in fact, I'm done. There's nothing else to really say here because he's gonna keep saying the same shit over and over again. Because if we pull up the statistics of white people more likely to be killed by white person, that's a mouthful. See, here it is. Bureau of Justice Statistics. 86%, as you saw it in the footnote right there. See if I can find it like this. Or I'm just going to have to do it in the footnote from the Google search. I don't feel like looking through it. And I could have fucking effed, but whatever. 86% of white victims were killed by whites. Like, you're more likely again to be killed by another white person than you are a black person. So for whatever reason, you know, we have, like, you know, this skewed view because we look at black on black crime. We try to apply it to say that black people are attacking white people because one white kid got killed by a black person and made national news. It's stupid. Yeah, here we go again. Reuters, fact check, examples, 81% murder victims. Image alleges that 81% of white murder victims are killed by blacks, but from FBI data in the U.S. Department of Justice show the contrary. 80% of white murder victims are killed by whites. So I'll let you do what you will with that.